if you guys know what math cut-ups are in general, for those of you that don't, math cut-ups are designed to be hands-on activities. So what I really want to accomplish whenever I create an activity is a chance for students to be able to um, experience multiple senses while they work. Because I worked with some kids that were really at need, I learned early on that the more senses I could incorporate, the more learning styles I could incorporate, the better off I was at hooking all of the students in a group in. And so I often would create card-based activities, and that's kind of where this evolved from, was my classroom. So I now create math cut-ups activities, which are card-based activities that require students to work in a group, and they organize and sort and solve problems together and try to match problems and answers while really focusing on the processes of mathematics, what it is that they're truly doing while they're working. And part of the richness that comes from it isn't just that they're visually stimulating and that they're touching stuff, because all that's important for connecting with students, getting the visual and the auditory and the kinesthetic learners. But one of the things that is a byproduct of doing group activities that really focus students on the thinking that they're doing behind the math and not just solving problems in general is getting them to talk about math and to really have opportunities to have that dialogue in a safe way, because oftentimes, so much comes out of the group activity and the group think that doesn't come out when we're doing whole class teaching. So I'm just going to show you an example of one of the math cut-up activities that I've recently converted into a digital project. This particular one uses Google Slides. And what I want to show you is two things. The first is what I can replace. So one of the things that I can do is in converting my activities to digital, is I can make them feel just like you were in the classroom doing the hands-on version. So I'm going to skip here to the actual slide. So when they're in the classroom doing this always, sometimes, never true activity, they're going to have a sorting mat, and they're going to have their cards, and the statement cards they're going to use are the same ones in this activity that they would be if they were doing it physically, hands-on, in-person instruction. And so I can make a Google Slide activity look and feel a lot like they were really in the classroom. So I've been really excited at all of the different ways that I can create something in Google. And it's been really fun through this process of trying to find new things and new ways that I can make it work. If you tuned in yesterday or the day before yesterday, one of those days earlier this week, I showed how to link slides together so that you could create like an interactive scavenger hunt using a presentation mode in Google Slides. So that's really fun. I've learned how to use Google Forms to create a breakout room. I've really felt like I've been challenged by learning new ways to, make something old new again, and to rethink how to truly make hands-on interactive materials available to students that are right now not available to learn in person. But one of the things that happens, like I said, in the physical group activity is that you get a lot of dialogue. So in an activity like this, when they're doing it by themselves, it kind of loses a little bit of its punch. So I can go through and I can read these and I think, okay, multiples of 5 end in 5. 5, 10, 15, well, they do end in 5, but they don't always end in 5, so I'm going to move that to sometimes. So I can do the thinking through these cards all by myself. Multiples of 7 are odd. Well, let's see. Multiples of 7 are 7, 14. Oh, there's already one that's not odd. So sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. I'm going to move that card. So I can get the basic gist of an activity, and I can think through it on my own. But it's so much more rich and meaningful when we can think through it together, because the conversation comes out. And I've used this activity with a lot of teachers as well, and I get a lot of those, oh my gosh, really? And so all of the work that you put in together to try to prove or disprove something is just so much more valuable. And sadly, that's the thing I can't replace. So while I can create an activity that allows kids to drag and drop and put cards in place and to make it feel like um, just like the regular activity, then what I can't replace is the conversation. However, you can assign an activity like this to a group of students. So I did a little demo earlier this week on that as well, where when you go into your Google Classroom assignment, you will create multiple copies of the activity. So here you can see it's a copy, and I could name it copy group 1, copy group 2, copy group 3, whatever I want to call it. And then I'm going to create multiple assignments in Google Classroom so that I can assign uh, 2 or 3 or 4 students to the same file. One of the things that I've been thinking of is, so how do I move this activity from something that students might do as they're editing a slide together? So I've got multiple kids in here pulling these cards and sorting them. How could I get that dialogue to come out? And one of the ideas that I have is, if you're utilizing Teams or Zoom or something like that, is having that group then go into this activity at the same time. They're going to go into their Google Classroom assignment at the same time so that they're all in the slide presentation together doing it, and have them go into a breakout room in Zoom or in Teams or in whatever conferencing setting you're using. Create a breakout room for each group so that they can also be talking to each other. And then they're looking at the same slide and they're talking to each other. They can minimize that to where they can just hear each other, not necessarily see each other's faces in the video conferencing, or they can make that smaller in their screen so that they're mainly seeing the activity. But there's so much value in having kids actually talk while they're working on a math task. And so having the ability in Google Classrooms to not only assign 3 or 4 kids to a particular copy of an activity so that they can all be in there editing at the same time, but then setting them up in a way that they can virtually connect and hear each other's thinking and argue about the math. I think that's the answer to right now being able to give students that are virtually learning the same kinds of experiences that they're missing out on by not being able to do in-person hands-on group work with them, in-person instruction right now. And I know even your kids that are in person in instructional settings may not be able to interact in the same way, and that you don't want them all touching the same things. So again, you could have them on their devices where they're manipulating the virtual activity at the same time, but they're sitting close enough in proximity in the classroom that they could still be talking about the cards that they're sorting, so that they still get that value of the mathematical discourse that comes naturally out of a really well thought out, hands-on kind of an activity. So I hope you find this helpful, and this is kind of the end of my series of things I've learned and thought about as I've been creating activities in Google applications so that you can use them virtually with your kids. And please let me know if there's anything that I can do to try to help make your life a little bit easier. Thanks.